Hey guys, this is Matt Beck from freesaloneducation.com, and after you check out this video, make sure you go to our website, freesaloneducation.com, and join our email list. It's our blog. We send it out weekly every Monday, so you get the news on everything that we're doing and updates on all the videos that we put out, and just really anything cool that we're doing, you're gonna get through that. So it's gonna go instantly to you every Monday morning. You'll get your Splitting Hairs episodes and everything else. So make sure you go to our website, sign up for that, and I hope you enjoy this video.
Hey guys, this is Matt Beck from freesaloneducation.com, and I'm here with my pal Thaddeus Boland, and we are going to walk you through his latest haircut. It's chop inspired, so what I like about this haircut is it's pretty much the big trend with celebrity hair right now. It's what do you do with this long a hair? So Thad, why don't you get us started?
Hey man, I'm really excited to talk about this because it's going to really show you how to remove a lot of weight when you're cutting off a lot of hair, which I've noticed that like when I was just starting out as a stylist, that it was like really tough to like chop somebody's hair off, and then you had all this like awkward weight like just hanging around the perimeter. So what I always like to start off with is a nice clean sectioning and making sure that I'm working with the shape of my client's head. So not only thinking about her shape, but also thinking about her density. I'm sectioning off a nice chunk off the top of her head, so that way we have a lot of hair to play with during the dry cutting for not only the fringe, but as well as the layering.
Yeah, I think you make a great point about hairstylists, and when we do these cuts, it's like, what do you do with the medium length cut? And this is a great example of how to remove the right amount of weight so that you don't have that big chunky layering like you're saying, like what we've all created in beauty school. This is a good way to make that go away.
Oh, absolutely. And like you also have to think about like the shoulders, like which way the shoulders are going to be pushing the hair, which way ears are going to be pushing the hair, because when you go medium length, like the hair's lighter. It's going to be being pushed around at this point.
Right.
So as you can see, I'm keeping a nice clean sectioning so that way the sections that I'm not working with are staying out of my way. Like there's nothing more annoying to me while doing a haircut than having a piece of hair from my neck section getting in the way of my comb as I'm trying to get a nice clean line to cut.
And it looks more professional.
Absolutely.
So I tried to flash a good look at the sectioning, but sectioning is important, and you can see how clean your lines are. Why don't you go over the razor part here?
So I really love the razor, especially using it in a horizontal fashion for this haircut, because by doing this, you're going to get a really diffused perimeter. So right off the bat, you're going to start off with softer lines, removing weight, and as we're going to go through the sectioning, we're going to focus on like the stroking of the razor in different fashions. So this first cut, just getting the guideline in there, I'm taking a shorter stroke to make sure that we have like a little bit more of a solid foundation, like so that I can see the hair through my next guide.
Yeah, I think the key thing for me in any haircut, but with razor cutting, people jump too quickly into grabbing big, thick sections. And this is a great example of just showing how you should take nice fine sections and then change the way that you use the razor, and that's what's going to affect the weight in the haircut.
Absolutely. Yeah, even with a razor, like you're still going to want to make sure that you're using good technique, using good sectioning. And you're going to notice that I stay consistent with the strokes that I use throughout this section on not only the sections I'm picking up, but also when I move to the right side, because I'm working on the left side, going through the layering over there and just removing a good amount of weight, because Abby's got a ton of hair. So the last thing I wanted was for after we styled her to still have a ton of hair when we're looking for a nice PC haircut, something that's going to give her a lot of movement.
Yep, and you're keeping square in the back.
Absolutely. So
pushing that weight right to set right behind the ear, and right where the density kind of starts to go away. So I like that about this haircut as well. This is what's funny is you weren't in the salon yet today, but I actually did this exact haircut on my guest.
Oh, nice.
I had a girl come in, and she wanted to chop her hair off. It was pretty much the same situation. She had a little slight wave to her hair. So I got out the razor, and I did this exact sectioning, exact haircut. It worked great.
Yeah, this haircut's going to be great, like whether you have a client that has straight hair or wavy hair, or if they do have wavy hair, if they want to style it smooth, because it's going to look fabulous like either way.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you said that because 2 days after I did this haircut, I had one of my clients who she also has a ton of hair and has like a nice wave to it. She came in and she's like, "Dad, it's time. I'm cutting off my hair. Like I need to change. We're about to get into spring. We're about to get into summer. Like I want to start these seasons off differently."
Yeah. And, you know, that's what I love. I love that we're putting out these haircuts that are salon friendly. You know, like this is something that you could use throughout your whole entire day. So.
Oh, absolutely. Just make sure you change your razor blade.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Anytime I start a razor cut, I always like to make sure that I have a fresh blade. That way I know that I'm going to be cutting through the hair and the hair is just going to cut like butter.
And Dad's using a feather razor, which is probably one of the most popular razors you can get. It's got a guarded blade, so you're not going to cut yourself with it. But the blades are really sharp. A lot of times, even the one that you get in beauty school, usually the blade is so flexible that as soon as you start cutting into the hair,
oh yeah,
it's just not strong enough. So I love that Feather has this. We have it on shopfsc.com, or just freesaloneducation.com. But it's affordable. And it's a quality razor that you're going to love. So why don't you talk about this? Is an interesting part.
So this is one of my favorite texturizing techniques with a razor. I've only ever heard it being used as like more of like an etching technique. And what you're going to be able to do is really use the razor as a pencil. I'm even holding it like a pencil. And I'm just going in there and removing the weight almost as if I was point cutting. But I'm pulling the hair straight down so I can actually see like how much weight I'm removing at that point in time. If your guest has finer hair and not as much density, you may not want to use this technique on them.
Yeah, you probably would have got the same result already from using the bigger strokes of the razor in the first place. But
this isn't my first time cutting Abby's hair, so I knew that we could definitely go through and take some texture out even while her hair is wet, which is another thing you want to think about because as you cut through it with the razor, you're going to be taking out a little bit more weight than you would if you were cutting with your dry cutting shears and cutting it while the hair's dry.
Right.
So I even sectioned her out before we did the texturizing, so that way I made sure that I was focusing on the weight that was underneath the occipital as well as the hair that was coming from the occipital.
Well, and if you look, like you're not grabbing that whole entire panel of hair. You're scooping underneath. And you can see the hair underneath that section right there. You're just pulling the hair that has to do with that section. And too often we grab the whole entire thing, just comb it up in our hand, and just start cutting away. And you lose your guide there. You don't have a guide.
Absolutely.
So this works well.
So and then throughout the sides, I'm just going to elevate it ever so slightly, so that way it gives it like a little bit of a gradient right through there. Because we have less hair on the side of our head because we have an ear there, which ears typically don't grow hair, at least not as long as that's coming out of the top of the head.
If they did, that would be really creepy.
Yeah, if you got ear hair that long, I recommend...
Could you imagine if we were doing ear trims?
Yeah, you're just going to want to cut it. Actually, when's the next time Joe coming in?
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So...
But we're just going to use that elevation as the texturizing because, one, we're going to go through and put in a lot of texture with the dry cutting. And I don't want to remove too much weight because of having less hair here. So we're just going to use that elevation to remove a little bit of weight and then focus more on the weight when the hair's dry.
And I think it's important, too, to look at the fact that you comb over and over again. You'll comb it, you'll cut it, and then you recomb it just to make sure that you get every hair and they all line up nice. Because sometimes with a razor, some hairs can snag or whatever.
Absolutely.
So especially when you're using a guarded razor. So I think it's good that you go through and you check it and just make sure the line. Take your time with a haircut. That's what people come back for, is when you spend time really focusing on each section.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like the last thing you want is to be going through with the blow dry and then all of a sudden find a hair that's like 6 inches longer than the rest of them, especially when you're chopping somebody's hair off like we did.
Right. And let's look at the importance of that top section right now, because we're about to get into that. So I think the way that it rides the parietal and goes down, I mean, you're going to do this quick blow dry.
Yeah,
there it goes. Man. But
I wish I could blow dry this fast in this salon.
But you can see the overlay of that section. So now it's all smoothed out. You can see the overlay of that section and how it falls. Why did you pick that sectioning on the top that way?
Well, I wanted to give like her some extra hair up there for going through and doing the layering, so that way we had a ton of movement. Because as you can see, like she like just dropping that hair down, that's prime example of how much hair she has.
Yeah, you couldn't even see the bottom.
Yeah, like you couldn't see the guideline. she essentially had an undercut for like a short haircut and then a long haircut.
Right.
But what I'm doing right now is I left a ton of hair in because not only are we doing a layering with that top hair, but we're also doing a nice fringe like that's going to frame her face very nicely. And I wanted to make sure that we had enough hair to give her a lot of framing around her face that was nice and layered, as well as be able to get in there and have enough texture throughout the haircut and to give her lots of movement and really be weightless.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this tool that you're using. We can talk about that because I'm madly in love with these scissors. They're like the first scissors I want to steal from Thad because I don't have one, but it's the Blacksmith Fit Puffin from Mizutani, and he let me use them the other day in the class. He was teaching this haircut actually. We were doing a dry cutting class, and I've never really used a dry cutting scissor. And you decided to get one.
Yeah, this was the first pair that I've ever used. Like, I hadn't even borrowed somebody's dry cutting shears. They just it intrigued me. The scissor shape intrigued me.
Yeah,
and the concept of having a shear just for dry cutting, which like we all should do like a good amount of dry cutting, not to fix your haircut,
right,
but to like really put your signature on it, really customize it to your client.
Yeah, and add the details and just the buttery feel of that scissor. When I went into even a mannequin head, it was like. I fell in love. I called Mizutani. I'm like, I have to have one of these. So I think it's cool. As you go through it, you can see the point cut. You can see how easily it's removing the hair. And I love that this technique that you're doing here, it's elevating the fringe.
Yes.
So you're cutting a face frame, you're cutting a bang, but you're doing it with elevation instead of pulling it down by the nose. You're going in there and elevating it to remove the weight around the face.
Absolutely, yeah. Abby, like we've said countless times, we're probably up to like 5 times or 6 times by now. She's got a ton of hair, so I elevated it probably a little bit higher than I would typically.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to have like too much layering on somebody who has less density. But the more density you have, like the more layering you're going to be able to get away with.
Right.
So we definitely wanted to get in there and release some weight so it didn't look like we barely touched anything or just did some slide cutting around her face, because I wanted it to be like some distinct bangs.
Right.
But definitely some light bangs. I didn't want like a super heavy bang.
All right.
So what we're doing right here is a teasing cutting technique. I love this for not only just adding more texture, like going through and texturizing, or actually doing some cuts. You're going to want to use a smaller section of hair than you're typically cutting with layers, just so that way you can have a little bit more control of what you're cutting. But what you're going to be doing is as you're moving your shears towards your guest's head, you're closing your shears very smoothly and very slightly, so that way you're not actually like tearing the hair.
Yeah.
You're cutting each piece like very, very, very slightly each way. So that way it gives a nice diffused look. Like,
yeah, as you're pushing your scissor in, it's just a slight close.
mm-hmm.
And then when you release it, you open them up slightly. So it's just as that motion goes in, you just slightly close it, work it back and forth. That's why it's good to call it kind of a teasing technique, because you are pushing the hair in a little bit, but you're not trying to just carve away at it.
Oh, yeah, and that's exactly why I say it that way, is because like you don't want, like I don't want somebody to just like hold their shears slightly open and just like start shredding.
Right.
What you're going to be doing is you are pushing the hair, which is why it teases. It's a pretty extreme technique. You may want to warn your guests before you do it, but it's a fun technique. It gives a great look. Like you can see, it's very soft. Like, and we haven't even finished with the style yet.
This is like the anti having your guests come in and say, I want the 3-layer haircut.
Oh, yeah. This is like 5 billion jillion layers.
Right. It gives it a smooth feel to the layering. You don't see a stack of layers whatsoever because of the teasing technique on top. Yeah. Like you built the structure with the razor at the bottom for the most part. I mean, it's the diffused structure, but there is some structure into it and rhyme and reason. Mm-hmm. Now you're just going through and shattering the top to lay over top of what you did. And that's what really makes this haircut cool and work well.
And what you're going to want to look for, like when you're going through this haircut, like and putting these layers in, is your guideline is coming from the hair that you cut with the razor, as well as your previous section. So once you see both of those fall out, you're going to actually want to pinch the hair. You're going to be able to see it pretty well in this slide right here. And if I decide to cut, there we go. So see, I just pinched the hair, so I'm not holding it like in the traditional layer form.
Right. You just get more tension.
Oh yeah. You're gonna be able to get more tension. Like the hair's not gonna be slipping through your fingers, as well as trying to hold it if you're cutting layers normally, it's just gonna be painful, like and very frustrating. You're probably gonna give up after the first time.
So you're going through, and I notice on the weak side, you over direct back a little bit more, and I think that's cool because it's gonna push a little bit more weight to the weak side and fill it up a little bit. And here you're more rounding the corner because it's a heavier side.
Absolutely, yeah. You always want to, like, if your guest has a distinct part that is very dramatic or not center, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you treat that weaker side differently, because just like having on the sides of the head in general, there's going to be less hair there. So
yeah, I mean, we all have that guest that's like, I don't understand why this side is longer than this side. Well, sometimes it's supposed to be like that. There's different weight on each side of the head, especially if you have a side parting. So, you gotta kind of share that with your guests, help them understand it. But this is a perfect way to go around the head and lighten up the heavy side.
Yeah. Did we already talk about on splitting hairs, things hairdressers don't want to talk or want to say to their clients but don't?
I think we did. I think we had a segment on it. We have one coming up with things that we wish we could tell them.
Okay.
I think that's what you're thinking.
Well, I'll give my 2 cents on this one, hopefully without destroying it. But I always like to give my clients like as much information as possible, because there's so many times that I've had a client tell me that they want something, and then after we do it, they're like, I didn't realize it was going to do that. Why didn't you tell me that it was going to do that?
Right.
So like having that client who says this layer is shorter than this layer, explain to them. Be like, well, you have less hair on this side because of how you part your hair. Like, so we need to layer it differently.
Right.
Like it's not a secret. Like don't try to like step around it.
Yeah. I love it. Even though you're working in dry cutting right now, you're still nice and clean. You're thoroughly going through. Like, you picked up that section a couple times just to make sure, because we're doing techniques that are not precise. So you need to go through and check them and recheck them. And you can see how those layers just kind of shatter through. I love this look.
Oh yeah, it's stunning, because like you can have a very conservative client in your chair, or somebody who's about to go to the NoFX or Rancid concert and wants to like just like put like half a pound of wax in their hair to like get like as much texture in there as possible.
They're gonna say like half a pound of weed. I don't know why. I was like, where's he going? Where's he going?
Things you don't know is that weed is actually really good for styling hair.
Right. So Drea just quickly popped that right into curls.
It was the weed.
Yeah. But she look at that. I mean, it's a great look. I love the chop to it. It's definitely one of those things. Yeah, there's the before. Oh, she's tossing it around.
She's saying goodbye.
Yeah. She was a little freaked out at the beginning, but now, I mean, look at the transformation. Cool waves to it. She talked the entire time. I think that's what happens when you get nervous and you're about to chop your hair off. She's just talking and talking. But look at the layering. I think it looks really cool with that. I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I told her she wasn't allowed to be nervous, because she stopped me during my workout to actually say, hey, I want to chop off all my hair.
Nice. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with freesaloneducation.com. We appreciate your support. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram and all of the above. And check us out. And that's it. Anything to add?
Thanks again for tuning in. New Instagram is Bad Bolognized.
All right. We'll see you guys on the next video.